Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome. My name is Gary Blakely, and I will be your MC today. I'm pleased to welcome those here in the Community Center and those joining us on Facebook Live and YouTube to the Kansas City Oasis. Since 2014, Oasis has been the premier secular alternative to faith-based communities. We welcome all, regardless of beliefs or non-belief, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel the human experience is better when it's shared, and we are so pleased that you have chosen to share it with us this morning. We gather around our 5 core values, which are: people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, human hands solve human problems, meaning comes from making a difference, be accepting and be accepted. Today's program, our featured speaker is Daryl Young from the KC Water Services Laboratory. I'm looking forward to this because it sounds like it's going to have a lot of good science discussion in it. And our musical guest is Gracie, is that Caggiano? Did I get that right? Okay. And our community moment will be from Tim Eshleman. All right, Gracie is an eclectic poet, composer, performer, and producer. She synthesizes diverse stylistic elements from her popular music background and classical training. She is a master of music and composition from UMKC. Please give a big Oasis welcome to Gracie Caggiano.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I've been wanting to come to Oasis for a while, and it's just a privilege that my first time here I get to play for you. I know many of us in this room probably have a background of having a religious upbringing of some sort, and the same is true for me. And I was thinking this morning, it's really interesting that my introduction to music and my initial desire to play music was in church. And that's why I wanted to play guitar, but really decided that I don't align with those beliefs. And they've made me sort of a contemplative person, but it feels still kind of like a full circle moment that I'm at this community gathering on a Sunday morning playing music. The first song that I'm going to play for you is called Ordinary Grace. I wrote these lyrics a little over 3 years ago when I was going through a tough time and really trying to soak up everything that I could from life and find meaning in everything, to keep me present, to keep me here. No. satisfy my fear. Or my hunger to drown, to medicate a wounded mouth. I feel everything at once. I feel nothing. I feel beauty in the unknown, and I feel strange, and I feel I want to try living. Give my hands to scalding water, to wash the dirt, to imagine what it feels like to be sentenced to the lake, to satisfy my fear. Or my protest to drown, to search for lukewarm grains of doubt. I feel joy for the small things. I feel alone, and I feel sorrow for the unborn, and I feel hope, and I feel like I want to try living. Oh, when I feel I truly want to try living, to believe that there exists an ordinary grace. Pour a glass of water, to offer light, to rekindle such a dream as to be opened by another, to satisfy my fear. Or my hunger to nurture a quiet wonder, to drown. I feel everything at once. I feel everything. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to play another tune real quick and then hand it off. This next tune is called Two Geese, and all of the songs I'm playing today belong to a collection that I don't really often get to play, because they're all in a strange tuning where I tune the strings of my guitar pretty much in fifths instead of fourths. And yeah, this tune is about feeling like I'm looking for love in the wrong places. Two geese in the median grass, scavenging for a thing to eat. Don't we all find ourselves in unexpected places, trying to satisfy some kind of desire? Some kind of desire. I stay constant as a bird, impatient as a word uttered in disbelief. It's not the want, but the need. It's the need. Oh. We all find ourselves in unexpected places. Hungry for survival. Are we all alone? I stay constant as a bird, patient as a stray feather, falling slowly. It's not the one, but the need. It's not the want, but the need. It's the need. Two geese in the median grass. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Gracie will be back to perform again after our coffee break, and then once again later towards the end of our presentation today. So, all right, birthdays this week. Well, we only got one, Brandon B. Today. Yay, yay, Brandon. Congratulations on another one. Anybody else have we left out, forgotten anybody? Come on, come on. Okay. Don't be shy. All right. Do you know someone who needs a little pick-me-up Contact Sarah Geelan, who can arrange for our Someone at KC Oasis Loves You yard sign to brighten their day. Please make a donation to Oasis and have their address available. Micah Ministry serves hundreds of people a meal on Monday evenings from 5:15 to 7:15. They help anyone, regardless of race, gender, religious or non-religious affiliation, sex, sexual orientation, or any other trait. Come join us tomorrow in helping our less fortunate neighbors. Tuesdays in January is beginner salsa dance at 6:30, $15, no partner needed. Julie is the ramrod of this deal. Well, Julie and Will. They're quite the team for teaching you how to dance, and they'll make it fun. This Thursday is game night from 7 to 9 p.m. Please join us here at the Oasis Community Center. And join us this Saturday in Lee Summit for indoor miniature golf and lunch starting at 10 a.m. at Craft Putt. For more information on these or any upcoming events, you can find it on the public Facebook event, the Oasis website, meetup.com, in the Oasis newsletter, or you can ask anyone with a yellow name tag. So there's lots of different ways you can stay up to date on this kinds of things. So that sounds like fun. Which brings us now to our community moment. And community moments are an opportunity for a member of our community to present on a topic of their choice during a Sunday gathering. Topics can be related to your profession, hobbies, travel experience, volunteer experiences, etc. For today's community moment, we will hear from Tim Eshleman. The 3 words to describe himself are organized, adventurous, and progressive. And if they had a warning label, it would be passionate Nebraska Cornhuskers fan.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Tim. This is my first community moment. And I want to talk about today our volunteer project we did with Habitat for Humanity. First, before I start, I wanted to thank, especially recognize Julie Maschler. She was the organizer and coordinator for the event. Her community outreach really allows us to fulfill our mission statement, which is volunteer for community events. A little bit about Habitat for Humanity. It's a global nonprofit focused on affordable housing. Founded in 1976, they work in 70 plus countries. Builds, renovates, and repairs a home for families in need. Their mission, bring people together to build homes, communities, and hope. I love this vision statement, a world where everyone has a decent place to live. So here was our project home. We worked on this, it was in December. We worked from about 8:30 a.m. till about 3 o'clock p.m. This was in Olathe, Kansas. And this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, beautiful quartz countertops, about 1,000 square feet. And the organizer said that's about the size of Habitat homes, different designs, of course. And this was the area. There's 14 homes in this area. And the site manager had said that there was a proposal, and from my understanding, it's just a proposal this time for 50 homes to be built in Lenexa Habitat Homes. And the goal is to increase affordable and attainable housing in Johnson County. This is our site manager, Ron. And the great thing about doing a project like this, when you first come, they give you about a 15 to 20 minute orientation. They explain a little bit about Habitat. They go over what the projects you're gonna be working on that day, give you some initial training. And Ron had mentioned that in 2025, Habitat had received 40,000 volunteer hours for people working on their homes. So how Habitat works, they partner with families who demonstrate housing need. Then the families contribute partnership hours. The homes are sold at affordable cost with zero or low interest mortgage. There's a recent article in the Kansas City Star. The title was "Plagued by Drugs and Crime, a Blighted KC Neighborhood is Being Reborn." It talked about 10 homes in the Lichens neighborhood of Kansas City. And Habitat's president and CEO had stated, "We have not had a foreclosure in almost 10 years." It's quite impressive. And then the volunteers and donors help reduce building costs. And speaking of the volunteers, here's some of our superstar volunteers from Oasis. We got Adrian and Clark here. Adrian is doing some detailed taping of hinges. The people are painting. I really appreciated that. Here's Clark doing some sanding, and Clark was doing power tools, using power tools throughout the day, throughout the home. Here's some people doing some caulking. We got Casey and Denise. One thing I really appreciate about our group is once everyone was done with like their individual project, everyone was asking about what more they could do. So we removed a lot of debris from the basement. We organized the garage in the home. Here's some of our painters. Got Julie doing some painting. This door took me about 3 coats of paint. Finally, it looked pretty good after it was all done. And then we have Mark and Will here. They did some detailed work. They had a little bit more experience. So Mark was doing some detailed work, doing some trim work down in the basement. And here's Will hanging a door. Wherever the largest and loudest power tool was, that's usually where you'd find Will. Yeah. And he did a lot of work outside too, and it was pretty cold, so nice job. So the partnership hours, the homeowners participate in homeowner education classes such as budgeting, financial literacy, home maintenance, and safety. They work on the construction site of their home. They assist with Habitat Restore. Habitat Restore is a store where you can buy gently used household goods at low prices. Here's our hardworking crew on a pizza lunch break. And one of the coolest things about this is we actually got to meet the homeowner whose home we were working on. She came in with her daughter to just check on the status of the home. I took this from Habitat for Humanity's Kansas City website. I just really like her quote. "It's really exciting to be out here working on my own home." She stated, "I've only been a renter before this." She says, "Exciting to make it our own and watch it all together. The most amazing feeling is being able to build generational wealth for my daughter." She explained, "It feels great knowing she'll have a foundation to build on." It's pretty cool. Her daughter actually helped Julie do some painting. I thought that'd just be a super cool memory for a little kiddo actually working on the home where you're gonna be living. And so, in conclusion, just wanted to say, just how Habitat has their homeowners participate in the building process. Everyone here at Oasis, when you participate in all the activities, just things like coming to a Sunday gathering or watching online, going to lunch afterwards, our book club, our dance lessons, our musical Mondays, Secret Santa, just all the fun things that allow us to be connected. You are participating in building yourself a home for you and your Oasis family, right here at Oasis. Thanks so much.
Very good. I got to say, I didn't know until today you were from Nebraska, and I got to say, I have a very positive attitude toward Nebraskans. I'm not surprised to know that you're from there, so compliments. So, all right, let's move forward to, do you have your new Oasis t-shirt yet? Yet. Our logo on the front and 5 core values and website on the back, they are available at the merch table for $25. I've got one, as well as other Oasis merch. I should have worn it today, I guess, so I modeled it. But in any case, there are also some handmade winter hats for sale. They can be had with a donation to KC Oasis. All right, that brings us to our coffee break. So we got 20 minutes where you can get some coffee, and be sure to introduce yourself to someone. I see a lot of new faces here, and maybe some people we haven't seen in a long time. So make sure you go out of your way to welcome any new folks here to Oasis, and just tell them your story and our story. And we're so glad to have you if it's your first time. So you're dismissed. By the way, as we're thinking about getting going here, we do have Oasis hoodie pre-order option, long sleeve, new shirts. So that's another. Do we have an example at the They're not, no examples. Yeah.
Sign up if you want one.
Pre-order for that. Yeah, yeah. So it's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. End of the coffee break. So yes, yes. All right, that brings us back to our musical guest, Gracie Caggiano. Gracie, in your intro, we were talking about you're a professor at UMKC, or tell me more about your role at UMKC.
I'm not a professor at UMKC. I did go there for graduate school. It's been almost 3 years since I've graduated, but now I'm just in the local music community. I serve on 2 nonprofit boards, and I spend my time freelance composing and performing. But yeah.
Okay. I was reading too fast, I guess, to think about what I was saying. So, well, welcome back, and let's welcome Gracie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm going to play another tune. This one is called What It All Means, and I wrote it around the same time that I wrote the first one that I played this morning. And it's about just searching for meaning in daily life and finding small joys. What if instead I held on to moments like the morning I squeezed the season in the choir room the night before? I had been wondering what could happen next. What might keep me to feel again the tenderness of a friend? Sierra, little woman, a little warmer still, an August in October dear. Forecast says the night before I have been wondering what it all means. If it means something to explain away the time I've been. What if the smallest joy can be the size of my breath, and I breathe it the night before? I have been wondering how to live inside each general moment that night I had considered my existence. Thank you.
that brings us to our featured speaker, and just want to let you know our program is designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, not as a forum to start debates. The following presentation has been prepared by our speaker and not by KC Oasis. Please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, a Q&A portion will follow. Daryl Young is the environmental manager for the Kansas City Water Services Laboratory. He has spent the last 8 years providing tours to prospective operators, city officials, and the general public, shedding light on the process of water treatment. More about his professional experience is in the online event page. Please welcome Daryl Young.
Thank you, sir. All right, is this on? All right, well, I can hear it. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I will say really quickly, this was actually a little bit of a tricky presentation to put together. I usually give a lot of talks to industry individuals, and having to have something that was a little bit more broad, but also a little bit brought down to a digestible degree was a little bit tricky at first. So we're going to go over this, but I will say that if you have questions, we're going to cover a lot of stuff in a lot of different areas. So I do encourage you to either jot down notes on your phone or if you have a pen and paper. So if you have anything to discuss later, we can take it from there. All right, so really quickly, we're just going to go over this. So of course, we're talking about water quality and infrastructure and why the details matter. And I do apologize for this picture. That is not Lando Calrissian. It's not Lionel Richie, which is usually what I get. What was that? Oh, I heard something. All right. But yes, that's usually what I get are those two. But there are a couple of other ones there. But as they stated, of course, my name is Daryl Young. I'm the environmental manager for KC Water Laboratory Services. I have spent the better half of 12 years in the water industry, both as a water treatment operator, but also my background. I studied urban watersheds when I was in college, looking at pollutional factors for urban streams. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So. Of course, a couple of other additional organizations I'm with. I'm an active member of the American Water Works Association and the Water Environmental Federation, both the Missouri chapters, as well as the NELAC Institute with TNI. And actually just last year, and I was tapped on the shoulder again this year, I had the opportunity to attend the DC Fly-In last April and argue the Water Risk and Resiliency Organization Capitol Hill. So a couple of things with that is that it addresses cybersecurity and wastewater systems, and actually a lot of our wastewater and drinking water municipal systems are actually out of date as far as cybersecurity. And it's probably been a couple of years now, 2024 I believe it was, KC Water joined several other water companies around the country when we had a data interruption, which I have to be very specific about not calling it the other word. It was a data interruption is what we had. But just to give you an idea, our system was Stephanie, I know you're out there. I'm trying to remember what it was. I believe it is a Windows Pro. I'm trying to think of what it was, but it's a Microsoft Office that hadn't been supported in 15 years. And that is what your water system was maintained with. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and move right along. So water assets. Again, this is going to be very broad. We're going to cover a lot, but we're going to go over our water assets. So here at KC Water, we have one treatment plant. That one treatment plant supplies water to the vast majority of the city of over 600,000 people, with several other cities that are tied into it. We have 18 pump stations, 2,845 miles of water main, 48,000 valves, and 25,000 fire hydrants. So a lot of assets to maintain. We also have 6 wastewater treatment plants, 43 pump stations, 2,700 miles of sewer main, 73,000 manholes, and a little over 1,300 acres of farm for biosolid land application. And as far as our storm sewer systems, we have 779 miles of sewer systems, 46,000 storm inlets, 15 flood pump stations, 13 miles of levee and 664 green infrastructure assets. Now, I will admit that this information is a little bit old. I haven't updated, but this is from 2022, so it just gives you an idea. As far as the laboratory itself, the laboratory analyzes about 35,000 samples every year, and we run around 275,000 tests per year just for our drinking water system, as well as our wastewater systems, and several other municipal systems around the city here. We analyze drinking water, wastewater, biosolids, industrial pretreatment, sanitary sewer overflow and bypasses, stormwater, MS4, and surface water quality. All right. So some of the things that with monitoring regulations. So of course you have the federal, state, and tribal monitoring, and a lot of that is dictated by the EPA with the Safe Drinking Water Act, which was passed back in 1974. And it establishes national primary drinking water regulations as well as outlines treatment techniques for public water systems. Another one that we have here locally, we have the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. And realistically, MDNR, as what it's known as in the industry here, they are realistically just there to monitor our systems to make sure that we don't exceed the federal standards. So we sort of have a stricter state run for a lot of our pollutants for wastewater as well as our drinking water regulations. All right. So just a few items that KC Water monitors and that we submit every month or every year. So the first is revised total coliform rule. So this was increased public health protections. And what this does is it monitors total coliform and E. coli bacteria in our distribution system. And we do this, we analyze 210 samples per month around the city. And actually, you'll probably see these green boxes that are just standing around the city with a KC Water Drop logo. We actually have one just down the street here. I believe it's around State Line and like 48th Street, and then we have another one that's near Metropolitan Community College. Those boxes, we go out and monitor the water. We monitor the water pretty much every day of the week, just to make sure that everything is consistent and that we don't have basically any bacteria in the water there. So another one, of course, is the lead and copper revision. This is a triennial monitoring of the water system's corrosion control measures, and all we're doing is trying to mitigate the leaching of lead and copper from plumbing, fittings, soldering fixtures containing lead or copper. And this is not to be confused with the Get the Lead Out program that you may have received a letter about. That was for the lead service line inventory, and that was a letter that went out to a lot of homes where they didn't know which material of your plumbing was in the house, and they just wanted to make sure. So they had a couple of little quick tips about, scratching your pipe with a penny to see if, if it actually left a mark, things of that manner. That's a different program altogether. And another one that we have is the overflow control program, which it's our water quality monitoring, and this is under the Clean Water Act. And what we do is we monitor the state and local waters for pollutants such as total suspended solids entering the rivers by way of sheet flow from parking lots. And this is one particular project that I've always enjoyed because you actually get to see a lot of like Brush Creek and Blue River, and as polluted as they are, you do see some benefits of proper controlling of pollutants that go into those creeks and streamways. And actually, I should say, as a kid, I used to play in Brush Creek and Turkey Creek, and the reason why I'm actually so passionate about water is because I always wanted to know why I couldn't eat the fish out of those creeks. So, all righty. So I want to start with some questions. Again, this talk is really more about just introducing you to a lot of factors about water, but I also like to sort of like reassure people and just get an idea of like where they're coming from. So I have a few questions here, and I just want to know, so where does your water here at KC Water come from? Anyone? What's that? The pipes. What do we got there? Oh. The wall. What do you got? What do you got?
Wells in the ground along the Missouri River.
Okay.
Missouri River, in the river valley.
All right. Those are some good guesses. So actually, the majority of our water comes directly from the Missouri River. We actually have 6 pumps that pull water directly from the Missouri River. We have 14 wells, but the wells are not actually supplying total volume. All they're doing is temperature control. So, second question, where does your wastewater end up? Missouri River. All right. And this is also important, this is an important topic for me because whatever you discharge to the Missouri River, including our own wastewater, is picked up downstream by the next treatment plant. So whatever St. Joe is discharging from their sewer systems, we're picking up in our water to drink. So that's why it's important to know these things. All right. Can someone tell me what an aerator is? There you go. It's a little screen on your faucet. Can I ask, when's the last time anyone cleaned that? Okay. Yes. You'd be amazed at what I find behind those aerators. Back when I was in the field and I would do collections from people's homes, there was one time where I removed the aerator and there were actually lead pellets behind it because they had a poor soldering job on a plumbing work and it was collected behind. So every time they went to get a glass of water, there were lead pellets behind that aerator. The other thing is that you get a lot of scale buildup, a lot of sand and grit. So since I was a kid, I was always told every 6 months you take the aerator off, you dunk it in a little bit of vinegar, you flush the pipe, and you pop it back on there. So these are things that you as a homeowner should be doing, but most people don't think about it. All right. So the fourth question I have here, so regarding plumbing, where does the responsibility of the city end and the homeowner begin? At the meter. So someone had it right there. Now, of course, there are some other things, like I said before, about the lead service line inventory program. That is something that's different, where the city and federal are actually working together to try to support removing some old pipes there. So, and then finally, what is the leading cause for sanitary sewer overflow? This would be like a wastewater pipe overflowing. So we were close with flushable wipes. Flushable wipes are more modern, and they are a problem, but that's not the leading cause. The leading cause is actually grease. How many people still pour grease down the drain? Never. So you all know that, but you'd be surprised how often. And just a funny story, again, years ago when I was in the field, we had a sanitary sewer overflow, and so I reported to the site just down south of Weatherby Lake. And I'm in a creek, doing collections, testing the water, making sure like it didn't impact it too greatly. And this pickup truck pulls up with this man and woman, and the guy was like, well, what caused that? And I was like, well, actually, it was grease that caused that. And I said, people just pour grease down the drain. And his wife was in the passenger seat, and she was very interested. As soon as I said grease down the drain, she was like, but no, grease is actually the most problematic issue that we have with a lot of our pipes. So. Don't do it. That's right. All right. So the next two slides, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail. And like I said, I'm going to try to keep this as digestible as I can. But so here we have, I don't know if you can really see it up there, but we have our source water here, the Missouri River. The second step is going to be sedimentation, softening, disinfection. And I'm going to be jumping back and forth between the two slides here because this here is the overview of our entire treatment plant. So over here, of course, you have the Missouri River. We have the intake here with 6 pumps. We have our well field, which runs along the Missouri River here. And that water is going to be pulled in through 2 pipes over to our primary settling basins. So our primary settling basins are basically just river water. We do have some minor treatment in that area, but a lot of it is just basically residual of what we're feeding back into the primaries, which I'll talk about later on. So our primary settling basins are really we're just slowing that water down, allowing anything that's in suspension to sort of like fall out. And then that is going to then flow there's an outer ring of these circular basins. That outer ring is going to draw that water through flumes into a area, and I do apologize, this is kind of small to see, but it's a large plant, so it's very difficult to get that all on one page. So the flumes are going to be drawn from the primary settling basins over here to this sort of like little rectangle area right here. And that's going to be our first stages of treatment. So we have a couple of things that go on there. The first thing that we're going to be feeding in is sodium permanganate. Sodium permanganate is an oxidizer. It's great for taste and odor events in the river. The other thing is that it's really, really good about destroying organic material. So if we have like an algae bloom in the river or something like that, we generally feed sodium permanganate in the water. Now, who remembers about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a pink water scare here in KC? Oh, Stephanie remembers. So the pink water scare was we had switched over from one chemical, potassium permanganate, which was a dry feed, to sodium permanganate, which was in solution. But unfortunately, that solution had congealed. And so it was not being distributed in the flumes as it should have been. So it basically came out like toothpaste. And what happened is it made its way over here to secondaries and got kicked up by the rakes and turned all the basins pink. Now, realistically, the level of sodium permanganate that was in the water was harmless. It was actually less than what you would find in like a hamburger. But that's an aesthetic displeasing thing. No one wants to see pink water coming out of their faucets. So it was a bit of a political back and forth, and we were basically told we couldn't use this chemical that actually is very beneficial to mitigating taste and odor events. And of course, we've had multiple taste and odor events in about the last 6 or 7 years following that pink water scare. So anyway, the next stage after we use sodium permanganate, the next stage is going to be our disinfection. We're going to be feeding in basically, we feed in chlorine and hydrous ammonia to make chloramines, and that's going to be used as our residual disinfectant to mitigate bacteria in the water. And then we have this sort of like covered little space right here. That is where we're feeding in a few things. We're feeding in ferric, we're feeding in lime, which is going to use used to soften the water, and the ferric is just the corrosion control. And then we're also going to be feeding in the anhydrous there with that to bind with that chlorine to make the chloramine disinfectant. And what eventually ends up is this bluish, greenish kind of water. Now, as pretty as that looks up close, a lot of people think it looks like ocean water. We are going from roughly about a pH of about 7.8 to 12.5. So you don't want to jump out in that water. It looks pretty, but it would burn. But from the secondaries, we have right here at the top, this is just a flocculation zone, and all we're doing is we're just agitating the water with giant paddle wheels just to ensure that we're allowing everything to go into mixture before it ends up to the secondaries. And the secondaries are, once again, just another settling basin, similar to the primaries, where we're just allowing that water to slow down. We're allowing anything to precipitate out of the water. And then we end up in this very narrow trough that you can barely see right between these two. That is going to be our recarbonation trough, where we're feeding in carbon dioxide to bring that pH down from 12 down to 9.9 to 10. And then the final settling basins here, all of these are just basically just allowing that water to basically come more into range. And realistically, in many parts of the world, that right there is drinking water. I mean, it's got a disinfectant, we've softened it, we have brought it back within range as far as pH. But the only thing we haven't really done is we haven't filtered the water. So that is going to happen in this building here, where all of these final settling basins are going to be pulled into our filter building, where we have 32 filters that filter the water through about 40, I think it's 36 to 48 inches of sand. And this entire treatment plant, I want to point out, this is all gravity dependent, except for this the pumps that draw the water over. There's no electricity at all being used from bringing one water to the next stage. It's a gravity dependent, so it's incredibly efficient as far as treating water. So once we've filtered the water, we do add a couple of other things over here in this giant field over here, which is the clear well. We are also feeding in phosphate and, of course, fluoridation. Now, I'm going to talk more about fluoridation as we go further along. Now, once that water has been filtered and once it's gone through the clear well, we have a couple of ways of getting that water out to the distribution system. The first thing is we have two lines that run to the northlands, and the northlands is pressure dependent, meaning that if the plant were to ever fall offline, we have to turn on special pumps to maintain pressure in the northlands. Down in the southlands, which we have a couple of lines, this 90-inch pipe that runs underneath the Missouri River, 300 feet, and another line right here that runs along Burlington. Those two push water to the Southlands. But in the Southlands, we have a lot of infrastructure and a lot of storage, so we can maintain the Southlands just by our pumps down there. Now, that all being said, the one thing I want to say is that this entire treatment plant, as large as it is, this treatment plant is 100 years old. So we broke ground in 1919. Around 1923, it was finished, but unfortunately in 1925, a little thing called chlorination came out. And that became the rule of treating water back then, was to make sure it was free of pathogens. So for that reason, it underwent some changes, and roughly 1927 is when this plant was operational to the degree that it is today. There are a lot of leaks at this treatment plant. There's also a lot of issues that we're worried about, which is what we're going to talk about infrastructure later on. But I will say that this one treatment plant, as old as it is, it's one of the largest in this region. It has a max discharge of 249.1 million gallons per day. Now, to put that in perspective, the city of Gladstone, their entire discharge is 5 million gallons per day. So we're pushing 249 million gallons. Now, that being said, if we were to push it beyond 200, it would blow. It's an old plant. It's not going to hold up to that level of water. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so next we're going to go here. So this is process control compliance monitoring. So I just want you to know that everything that we just went over, it takes roughly about a day from the water to go from the Missouri River to basically your tap. And the process control measures that are taken by the treatment plant, we are actually monitoring that water 24/7. Plant operators are running tests every 4 hours and making adjustments as the day goes on because the river is always changing. There's always going to be taste and odor issues, but also there's also changes in the distribution system. We use more water between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. than we use at 5 p.m. What's going on at 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.? Getting ready. Everyone's using that water. And I can also tell you, I can't wait for the World Cup. You're going to see a lot of water usage. The other thing is that the water laboratory performs daily compliance testing. We monitor the water every day, and we use that as the compliance monitoring for the treatment plant, but the treatment plant is doing the majority of the testing and process control to make sure that everything stays consistent. Alrighty, so here we have the water sampling station page, but realistically what I want to show here is our distribution system as a whole. So like I said, our treatment plant is one of the largest in the regions. We actually have, I believe, 30 IJAs, interjurisdictional agreements, and these are cities that pull water from us. They basically buy water from us. But actually here, you can see the entire distribution system. We push water, this red line that's up here, we push water all the way north to Dearborn, and I believe it's, I can't think of the township, but it's north of Dearborn. So you're talking about halfway to St. Joe. We're pushing water to the north. Down here at the bottom, you have two lines. This one down here pushes water to a Raymore Tower, which then pushes water down to Peculiar. This line over here pushes water to the power treatment plant in Pleasant Hill. We technically don't do it anymore, but we used to push water all the way to the border of Green Valley. This one treatment plant pushes all that water around the city. And this is the one thing I always like to scare people with. That one treatment plant, at normal usage, if we were to lose it, you have 16 hours of water. That's it. No water system in this country has more than a day's worth of water at regular usage. And we actually came close to that, and I'll explain that later on here a little bit. But we came close to losing the treatment plant about 2 or 3 years ago. So, all right, so water infrastructure, like I stated, KC Water Treatment Plant has a max quota of 249.1 million gallons. Our max storage capacity is 143 million gallons of water in the city, and that's while we're pushing that 200 million gallons of water. We can still maintain 143 million gallons around the city. Again, the issues are age of and the size of our system, and as I just stated there earlier, if we were to lose the plant unexpectedly, we have 16 hours of water at regular usage. So the reason we're in this state is really just a lack of investment paired with an out-of-sight, out-of-mind mentality. What I said before about the aerator, and people didn't know about it, it's because it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about it. The pipes beneath your feet, no one really thinks about it. But it's aging, it's crumbling, and it has a lot of problems. So here's our transmissions and boosters and elevated towers. So this is just going into that 143 million gallons that I just mentioned about storing around the city. So we have up here some of our boosters here, but then when the majority of our storage is going to be down here. And like I said, there's that Raymore tank that's pushing water down to Peculiar. You don't really see anything over here in the Pleasant Hill, but that's where a treatment plant is. And then Turkey Creek and East Bottoms are probably our largest. We can store, I believe, 37 million gallons at Turkey Creek, and we can store 15 million gallons of water over at East Bottoms. So again, south of the river, we can maintain, if the treatment plant goes offline for repairs, we can maintain the south of the river through various pumps and booster stations. North of the river, we have to maintain that pressure because they don't have the infrastructure that we have like in the Southlands. Alrighty, so this is a point where I'm going to go over New Year's Eve break. So back in 2023, I believe it was December 30th, we had a major break. It was a 30-inch water main break at East 17th Street in Maine. Does anybody remember that? It actually swallowed up a vehicle. That one break, we lost 5 million gallons of water in about an hour. So again, the equivalent of City of Gladstone's max discharge, we lost in about an hour. It resulted in a lot of damage. I mean, it was pretty bad. The likely cause of that break was actually temperature change. So if anyone remembers, we had about a negative 20 degree one day, and within 48 hours, it was nearly 50 degrees. So it was a pretty significant change. And because we don't have snowfall, and this is a whole different caveat I can get into. So I love snow, not just because it's pretty, but it actually has a lot of practical applications. First, it's a groundwater recharge, nitrogen fixing. Nothing better than a lightning strike adds nitrogen to the ground. And then finally, it regulates the temperature of the ground. So how many of you on here know what a frost line is? Okay, a few of you know. So in this area, you need to bury your pipes below 36 inches. I believe it's closer to 40 inches. You need to have your pipes buried to minimize freezing. Without snow on the ground in negative 20 degrees, that drops, which means that your pipes are freezing. So that's why snowfall is important. So anyway, this particular break, we had, like I said, around 50 to 60 degrees temperature swing. And what that did to a 130-year-old 30-inch cast iron pipe is that ground was contracting and compressing, and that pipe was basically going up and down, and it broke, and we lost it. Now, what resulted was we had a boil advisor for basically half of the city. Pretty much if you were south of the river, basically was Independence Avenue in the north, all the way down to 63rd Street in the south, from State Line to I-435. I mean, that's more than half probably of the city's population that was under a boil advisory during that time. And while there are a lot of things that came out of that, first is that myself, along with my colleague, the former lab manager, she and I created the Boil Advisory Plan of Action, because prior to that, the city really didn't have anything in place to say, okay, well, how do we do this? And I will tell you personally, and I don't want to get too politically here, but I was a little bit irritated when the information that I was compiling for us to go out and do the sampling was the very information that was being distributed to the public. Because realistically, that was information that we were using. And if I made an error on that or anything, it could easily come back and bite me in the butt. So I wasn't a fan of that. But what we did was we created a plan of action for addressing boil advisories. And we streamlined, the process for notifying the department, notifying the general public, as well as ensuring that we had key roles and key individuals in charge of that. Now, this break is also a little bit contentious for me because, I don't want to get political. I was not a fan of the former city manager, name will be not mentioned here, and as well as the mayor's sort of addressing of this. So they were very quick to say, look what we did. We came out here and we replaced this pipe. We came out here and fixed 40 foot of this pipe, and this is what we do. It's 130 years old. And I wanted to sit there and say, okay, you replaced 40 foot. Did you mention that there's 3 miles of that runs just through downtown? You put a Band-Aid on this pipe, and yet we're acting like it's, we saved the world. So it's things like that where I always have to be careful about who I'm talking to. So anyway, just because we've had a lack of investing in our infrastructure doesn't mean that we're not doing it at all. One of the areas that we're doing is we're investing in our water laboratory. For anyone who's been in the Northlands, you've probably seen a lot of construction that's going on right there near the water treatment plant. That's actually a $33 million project that we began May of last year, where we're expanding our laboratory and bringing it up to speed. And a picture that I have, and Stephanie, I know you remember this one, this is a pollutions lab. This is a current sink basin that we still use. And you can clearly tell there's a giant crack right down the center of that. And when I went over there to look it over, I got underneath and the entire pipes below it just fell away. The laboratory is 30 years old, and in terms of laboratory speak, that's ancient. So there was a lot of investments that we needed to do. But just because the laboratory is old doesn't mean that we weren't still able to do the best that we could. And actually, I think it's been about 2019, we have 5 areas of the laboratory. There's a metals, organics, there is a water lab, there's a pollution lab, and there's a micro lab. Of those 5 areas, we realistically were only certified by the state in 2 areas, our water lab and our micro lab. Since then, with the leadership of my former boss and also just rigorous work with the staff, we were able to become a nationally accredited laboratory and throughout the entire lab. And it's something that we really do pride ourselves on. So right now, we're in the middle of expanding that, modernizing the laboratory, and hopefully bringing on some additional testing as well. And it's slated to be completed second quarter 2027. Another area that we're investing in is the self-resiliency treatment plant. So many of you probably heard about a proposal to build another water treatment plant that is going to help with our growth in the Southlands. That realistically has not been determined as far as when it will be completed, But that is some testing that we did recently this past spring where we went out and did ground well monitoring testing to see if it would be a viable site for a treatment plant. And then the last thing, of course, we have investments in our wastewater treatment plant, specifically the Blue River treatment plant with renovations and improvements to their process. Who here has been around Blue River and smell it? Okay, you know that smell. Now, as terrible as that smell is, that sulfide smell, that's actually what you want to smell. If you're not smelling that, that means that there's raw sewage going right out to the river. So I understand it's displeasing, but that is the smell of progress being made at a wastewater treatment plant. Alrighty. So there's also great strides. We've also made great strides in informing our customers, and this is an area that I spearheaded along with some members of my staff. So we actually now have a dedicated web link for water quality questions. So like what I talked about before with that aerator, you can actually find it on this website here, which is the KC Water US water quality page. And we have a series of like troubleshooting things that you can look over just to figure, okay, well, why does my water taste bad? Or what do I do in this event? If you ever had a water break in your neighborhood, what's the first thing you do when the water comes back on? Flush. Which tap do you flush? First of all, you flush the closest one to the line coming in. So realistically, if you have an outside water spigot, that is the first line that comes off in your home, go out there and flush that for 5 to 7 minutes. You'll evacuate the line before it circulates the entire house. So again, things like that people don't think about, but it's important to know. Alrighty. So again, you can access this site, and we have several things. There's the water quality reports that we post on there. We have our water quality topics. There's information for boil advisories if there's any in your area, as well as the water service line inventory program. If you didn't get that letter, you can go there and find out more about if your house qualifies. We also have helpful tips, like I said, to ensure high water quality, flushing lines, checking your aerator and whatnot. Alrighty. And again, like I said, I try to keep this broad but also digestible, but there's a lot that I can bore you all day with. We have regulatory changes. Right now the biggest thing in a lot of laboratories is the topic about PFAS and PFOS. For those of you who don't know, this is that forever chemical that 3M and DuPont basically created back in the 1930s. It's in everyone's blood system in this room. It's in, if you have any waterproof clothing, it's pretty much in us. A lot of the coffee cups we drink contain PFAS and PFOS. So it's just a chemical that unfortunately we have to live with, and we're looking at ways of how do you mitigate that going forward. Now, fortunately, in this region of the country, we don't have nearly as much of a problem in our drinking water, but up north in Minneapolis, Minnesota, they have a lot of issues there. So another area is climate concerns. What I talked about before with the frost line or that 130-year-old pipe. Those are things that don't benefit us when we have these vast temperature swings. There's staffing issues. We have an aging workforce and operator shortages. And a lot of these treatment plants are old. Well, what happens when you have young people who come in and they don't really know the treatment plant, or they don't know how to use a Windows XP? Because they're more apt to like Windows 11 or whatnot. These are things that we try to address. I actually gave a talk last year about operator shortages. We also have growth. This is another one. We are expecting too much from an old system. The Northlands are growing. We're growing in the Southlands. But you're demanding a lot from an old system. And the one thing that I've usually gotten a lot of arguments with people on the phone about, I should say arguments, we debated. But I've had people who told me that because of where they are in Tiffany Springs, this is a brand new neighborhood, you can't tell me that there's something wrong with the water. Well, that water traveled from a 100-year-old plant through 150-year-old pipes to get to your neighborhood. So we're all connected. There's also water shortages versus effectively using our water. And this is something I'm very passionate about because realistically, nowhere in this country are actually dealing with a water shortage. We don't know how to effectively use our water. The first thing is, why are we flushing a third of our water down the toilet? But again, that's another topic for another day. There's political changes. The aforementioned DC fly-in. As much as I enjoyed that time, I can tell you that most of the people that I met from the right did not want to hear anything about water infrastructure or water spending. But as soon as I started talking about foreign and domestic cybersecurity threats, their ears perked up. But political challenges are always going to be there. And then, of course, there's societal ebbs and flows, such as fluoridation. Now, how many people in here know about fluoridation? How many people in here know it's a naturally occurring isotope found in surface water, such as Missouri River? Okay. See, some of you are knowledgeable. Of course, that, again, is a whole other topic we can spend a day on. And then I have down here, of course, the World Cup. It's, we're thinking, let's just say that we're going to increase half our population in the greater Kansas City metropolitan area. The greater Kansas City metropolitan area is around 2.5 million people. Let's just say we're going to get, somewhere around 800,000 people that are coming. Well, what happens when all those toilets flush at once? You're going to see some stuff. So we'll see what happens. In closing, while it may not seem important much of the day, at the end of the day, I always tell people, can you really have civilization? Can you really have a city without water? When COVID hit 5 years ago, there were a couple of things that happened. The first thing was that around the country and realistically around the world, they said there are two things we have to maintain: power and water. But the one argument that I have made for a lot of people is that when we lose our power, and many of us have had to go through power outages and whatnot, after about a day, you start to reappropriate. And you're like, okay, we need batteries. Let's go get some ice so we can put some things in the cooler. Make sure you do whatever you need to during the daytime. You start to learn how to do that. If your water goes off and after the second day you don't know when it's coming on, you have mass hysteria. How do you flush the toilet? How do you effectively drink water unless you know that you need to boil it and then still filter it? These are things that people don't realize until it's gone. And it's one of the things that and a couple of my friends out here in the field know that, like, I dance. I'm actually teaching the salsa class that was up here earlier. The reason why I dance is that for 2 to 3 minutes, I need to escape the world that I exist in. So, anyway, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to questions. Like I said, I gave you a lot. There was a lot of stuff there to digest. I hope you wrote down some things. If you don't feel free or comfortable asking a question here, you can always catch me afterwards. You can catch me on the dance floor, and I can bore you all day. So, looks like we have, 4, 5, 6,
We
7.
got a few questions
We got a
here.
few.
So,
do you want to set the mic and they just come up here in the front?
I'm going to walk to them, but I'm going to ask the first question.
Okay.
So I'm well aware that in Flint, Michigan, a change of the water source, chemically different, precipitated that crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Do we, if the Missouri's changing from time to time, do we have any risk of anything like that here?
So once again, I don't want to get too political, but as a former operator, the operators knew that water was compromised from day one. So what happened with Flint was a drastic change in the pH that had essentially altered the chemistry of the water and caused leaching of lead from the pipes. And while I will say that our pH here at KC Water, we run about 9.8 to about 10.1, and yes, that is high, but the reason it's high is because of our distribution system. If we were to bring that pH below 9.4, we would actually start to have problems such as lead being leached out of the water. So that's why we have to maintain it at that 10. I mean, you're talking about 150-year-old pipes, and in some cases it's a brand new pipe that just put in the ground. So you have to make sure and maintain that.
All right. I don't know if we're going to have time for all the questions. I'm seeing lots and lots of hands here, but we'll try. We'll try. All right.
And yes, this is my real hair, just in case anyone was wondering.
Hi. You didn't mention AI, because I've heard in Texas they're having concerns about all the water that the data centers take to cool off. So what is KC Water doing about AI?
So the data centers, yes, we do have several of them here in the city, and they use a lot of water. Now, the one thing I will tell you about data centers, I'm not happy with them. They realistically should be using a gray water system, or basically using an alternate system other than your drinking water. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that is more politically driven. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you are arguing your concerns with the usage of our water to your city council members as well as to your city officials. I said it earlier that we don't have a water shortage issue. We have an inability to effectively use our water in an efficient manner, and data centers are not one of them. And granted, this is my opinion, just FYI. So.
In your regular life, do you drink water straight out of the tap?
I drink straight tap water. I do not use any filters, and I also do not drink bottled water. Bottled water, unfortunately, it is a fallacy, in my honest opinion, for two reasons. The first is that it is not maintained under the Safe Drinking Water Act. It's actually under the FDA. And more importantly, if you sell water in the States, it has to have a residual disinfectant. Most bottled water is going to be already tap water sourced from a municipal system. They're generally going to have maybe one extra filter process, or they may say that they're going to use whatever, safer method for disinfectant. But as soon as you open that water, you take a drink, you set it down, that disinfectant's gone. Which means that when you drink a bottle of water that's been sitting out for a day, there's already bacteria growing in there. So why bother with bottled water? But again, my opinion.
All right. Here we go.
I've heard a rumor that there was a water pumping crisis in the country of Iran, and that has contributed to their political instability. And have you heard about it, and can you prevent a similar issue from happening here?
Well, I'm not entirely familiar with that particular case, but I can tell you we have water issues that are dire in this country. Every year, they usually put out a report of like the top 10 water instability cities, and several of those cities are actually here in the States, including Florida. Our water, again, it's not so much about the source of water, it's how we effectively use it. And we can do a lot of mitigating of wasteful usage and increase our water downstream. Now, one thing that I'll say that it's existed realistically since the 1970s, 1980s, but in countries around the world where water is not as reliable, or not necessarily reliable, but it's not nearly as beneficial with their population density, is that they will put things like in Japan, when you wash your hands, a lot of places have where that water runs to the back of the toilet. In a lot of small trailers and campers, they design the bathroom toilet to accept the water from the vanity, which would be on the top of the toilet. So you use the water that you're washing your hands, or you use the water that you shower with to flush the toilet. So those sort of things are what we need to move towards as a society, and stop thinking that water is just unlimited. It costs us money to treat the water, so why do we just waste it?
One more question, but we'll have opportunity after the program.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm frustrated with tap water questions because I know a lot of people who are really, not the questions that we're asking, but the questions that people have generally about tap water. I know a lot of people that I think are reasonable and well educated that still see and smell like odor issues or taste issues with their water, and they're very distrustful of the government, especially now, and they don't trust their water at all. And so I'm curious about your thoughts on that. But my real question is, on the topic of like water shortages, how do we lose water and where does it go? I know that you say we don't have a water shortage, but like in the process of treatment and like water usage, how do we lose it? Does that make sense?
Realistically, you don't lose water. Now, the thing my dad used to always joke about when someone says, "Oh, that's old water," he's like, "Yeah, it's been around for millions of years." So it's just the water cycle. Whatever we discharge, it's going to end up eventually either in a storm drain or in a wastewater treatment plant that ends up back in a river. And it's going to go downstream. And then, that's just a water cycle. Eventually, we're going to get that water from downstream. Now, as far as the taste and odor, I understand your concern there. So one thing I didn't mention is that one of the things that we really improved on is that we have a 311 My Civic phone number that you can reach out, and we can have these discussions over the phone. My staff have been rigorously trained to address a lot of the concerns that you have. And if they can't address it, they always say, just hand it over to Daryl. But as far as the taste and odor goes, a lot of that is, it's an aesthetic displeasing, but a lot of it's subjective, because your taste and odor palette is going to be entirely different from someone else. Now, that being said, we do taste and odor testing every morning at the treatment plant or at the laboratory. A lot of the taste and odor issues that we get nowadays is actually from PEX tubing. So if you ever heard of polyvinyl chloride tubing, it's that red and blue flexible piping. So in areas where you use chlorination as a disinfection, it actually leaches taste and odor compounds from that pipe. And so you actually taste that in the water. And I hate it. I always tell people, I'm like, you can flush the water all you want, and it's always going to be there, because as soon as you stop using the water, it's leaching those taste and odor compounds back in. The most effective way of making sure that your water at home is, acceptable or palatable, check out what your material is. When's the last time you changed that aerator? Things like that. And then the final thing is that you also have to bear in mind that a lot of our taste and odor are tied to other things. When you're drinking a glass of water, you're normally near the sink. Well, where's the drain? And I always tell people when they're trying to figure out taste and odor, fill a glass of water, step outside your house, wait 2 minutes, and then take a drink. And if you don't taste or smell it, it's not the water, because it would remain in the water. It's going to be the drain or something tied to your house. So,
Great. I tell you what, between your... I have to say that between the presentation we just heard and his answer to Denise's question, I have confidence in my tap water now.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
And you'll be available for questions
sure.
later.
Yeah, I think I still have some cards too as well. So.
And if you want to talk about dancing, you can do that too.
Oh, yeah.
All righty. All right, so Sunday volunteer tasks. In just a moment, we'll be passing around, or actually we're passing around right now, volunteer task cards. Please grab one that you can accomplish today after our meeting concludes, and once you've finished the task, return the note card to the done purple box in the lobby near the drink station. All the cleaning supplies you might need are in the white cabinet back there in the corner in the foyer right by the lemonade. We need everyone, yes, you, to help keep this place looking great. All right, and while our musician is coming back, Gracie Caggiano is coming back to the stage, I want to remind everyone that Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit run solely on donations and volunteers. If you liked the topics and music today, please consider donating through kcoasis.org/donate or by Venmo. Our Venmo information can be found at the merch table in the lobby, as well as cash donation jars. Recurring monthly donations through our website are the most helpful. All right, that brings us back to Gracie. Is going to delight us with one more song.
Thank you. That was a really enlightening talk as someone who drinks bottled water. I'm going to start drinking my tap. I also really enjoyed hearing the community spotlight talk about Habitat for Humanity. I had asked Jason beforehand, what the conversation was going to be about today, and see if I had a song that would be relevant. And I have one, it's called Little Dream, and the lyrics go, I dreamt that we bought a house, and every night we opened our doors and fed the people we love, and I dreamt that we loved everyone. So I thought this would be a nice conclusion. Thanks for having me here today. It was a privilege to play for you. I dreamt that we bought a house, and every night we opened our doors and fed the people we love, and I dreamt that we loved everyone. Wondering why I under daylight's covering. Light passes through window shutters. Eyelids flutter. I dreamt that we bought a house, and every night we open our doors. And fed the people we love, and I dreamt that we loved everyone. Wondering why I spend so much time sitting and wondering and wondering why we don't cry more, wipe our thumbs beneath each other's eyes. Oh, try more, look for stories in the sky more, or try more, wait a little longer to say goodbye more often. I dreamt that we bought a house, and every night we opened our doors. And fed the people we love, and I dreamt that we loved everyone. Everyone. Thank you. Thanks again for having me.
All right, and don't forget, we got a cash tip jar somewhere around here, we welcome your help there. And Venmo is an option too, if you want to give Gracie a tip on that. All right, reminder, the Crown Center parking garage is only free if you take the ticket issued when you enter the garage with you and have the cashier where you buy your lunch validated for you. Any store or restaurant purchase can validate your ticket for free parking. So join us for lunch after Oasis at the Crown Center Food Court. I will be there, and got a lot of options. But yeah, I've made that mistake before on the parking. It was a bit of a surprise to get myself out of the parking garage. But all right, so next Sunday, the featured speaker will be Jay Wiley, and subject from sketchpad to iPad, learning to evolve as an artist. Musical guest Leslie Ravel Zucker, and community moment will be by Will Manning. We all know him. Yeah, he's a dancer too. So. All right, and before you head to lunch, if you didn't already get a card, just if you see something that could be done, take a few minutes to help clean up. We want to thank the week presenters, and we will see you next week.